There is a cotton sock hanging from a wooden stake at the corner of my garden, and inside it is about $1 worth of shavings from a bar of soap you can buy at any grocery store, 3 bars for $4. No rabbit has crossed that line in 9 years, and the reason it works has almost nothing to do with the soap. Do you know what a rabbit is actually afraid of? Because once you understand that one thing, you will never spend $30 on a bottle of repellent again, and you will never lose another row of beans. Let me tell you what June looked like at my house 12 years ago. I came out to the garden one morning with my coffee, the way I do every morning before the children wake, and I stopped at the end of the bean row and just stood there. 40 feet of bean seedlings, 3 inches tall the night before, cut off clean at the ground, every single one. Cut at an angle like someone had walked down the row in the dark with a pair of scissors. No leaves scattered, no mess, just 40 feet of little green stumps where my summer's beans used to be. My name is Katie Yoder. I am Amish. I keep a half-acre kitchen garden in Holmes County, Ohio, and that garden feeds my family of 7, from the first lettuce in May to the last squash before frost. It is not a hobby for us. It is the food. And that first summer as a young wife, I did everything wrong. I replanted the beans, every seed by hand, on my knees in the dirt with my youngest napping on a blanket at the end of the row. She took them again in 5 days. Then she started on the peas, and then the young cabbage, one head at a time, working her way down the row like she was reading a menu. I bought a spray from the store, a big bottle, close to $30, that smelled like rotten eggs and garlic. And I will be honest with you, it worked. For about 2 weeks, it worked. Then, one morning I came out and she was sitting in the middle of the lettuce bed at first light, chewing, looking right at me, not even bothering to run. I cried over that garden. I am not ashamed to say it. Quick word before I go further. The old methods my family uses, there is more of it than fits in any one video. I gathered the whole of it into a book you can buy in our pinned comment below. The book is the long version. If you want it, it is there. I will not mention it again. So there I was, out $30, out 2 plantings of beans, and out of ideas. And that is when my mother-in-law came to visit. She did not look at the garden. This is the part I want you to hear. She did not walk to the beans. She did not smell the spray. She walked the other way. She walked along the fence line where the grass had gotten tall. She looked under the old shed where there was a gap about the width of your hand. She stood by the brush pile my husband had been meaning to burn since March. And then she said something to me that I have never forgotten and that changed how I keep a garden for the rest of my life. She said, "You are not feeding a rabbit from the woods. You are feeding a rabbit that lives here." And then she asked me a question that I am going to ask you right now, because your answer is the reason every spray you have ever bought stopped working after 2 weeks. Why would a smell scare an animal if nothing bad ever happens when she smells it? Sit with that one a minute, because everything else I'm going to show you comes out of it. Here is what most folks get wrong about rabbits. And if you do not understand this part, nothing you buy will help you. A wild cottontail rabbit does not travel. She is not passing through your yard on her way somewhere. An eastern cottontail lives her whole life inside a patch of ground about 2 to 5 acres, and a mother rabbit often uses less than that. Her entire world is your yard, your neighbor's yard, and maybe the hedgerow behind them. She was likely born within shouting distance of your back porch. And here's the second thing, the thing that matters even more. A rabbit is a prey animal, all the way down. Everything in her body is built around one job, which is not being eaten today. She has eyes on the sides of her head so she can watch the sky and the ground at the same time. She feeds at dawn and at dusk in the gray light, when the hawks cannot see well and the fox has not started her rounds. And she will not, ever, feed more than a few quick jumps from cover. That is the law she lives by. Open ground is death to a rabbit. A hawk takes her in open ground. So she eats at the edge, close to something she can dive under. Now look at your own yard with her eyes. The gap under the shed, the brush pile, the tall grass along the fence you have been meaning to trim, the overgrown forsythia by the corner of the house. Every one of those is a house you built for her, and your garden is the restaurant you built next door. You did not get a rabbit problem. You made one. And this is where the sharp truth comes in, the one the companies selling repellent would rather you not think about. You cannot repel an animal that lives 10 feet away. The sprays in the store, and I have read the labels, most of them are water, garlic, pepper, and dried egg. The same things I'm going to teach you to mix yourself for pennies, those sprays work by smelling like danger. like a predator, like a person. And for the first 2 weeks, the rabbit believes it. She smells it and she waits. But she is watching that garden every single evening from her cover. And every evening the smell is there and nothing bad happens. No fox, no dog, no person. And a rabbit is not stupid. Her whole life is sorting real danger from false alarm, because a rabbit that runs from everything starves and a rabbit that runs from nothing gets eaten. After 2 weeks of nothing happening, your $30 smell gets filed under nothing, and she walks right through it and eats your lettuce while looking you in the eye. That is what happened to me. That is what happened to you. The smell did not fail. The smell got found out. So the answer is not a stronger smell. The answer is to stop arguing with her appetite and start working on her fear. You take away the cover so that eating your garden means crossing open ground. You keep the smells changing so she can never finish sorting them into the nothing pile. And where it matters most, you put up something she cannot argue with at all. That is the system, and I am going to give you the whole of it in order with the costs, starting with the part that is free. Step 1, I call it walking the line, and it costs you nothing but 1 evening. Tomorrow at dusk, take a chair or just stand quiet at the corner of the house and watch your yard for 20 minutes. Do not move around, just watch. Rabbits keep a schedule like a train. She will come out in that gray half hour, and she will come out from somewhere, under the shed, out of the brush pile. Through the gap where the fence meets the ground, mark that spot in your mind, because that spot is worth more than every bottle in the garden aisle. That is her front door. Step 2, take away her house. This is the one nobody wants to hear because it is work instead of shopping, and it is the one that does most of the good. That brush pile within sight of your garden, burn it or move it far back on the property. The tall grass along the fence, mow it. The gap under the shed or the porch, close it with a strip of hardware cloth, which is a stiff wire mesh, about $8 for a roll, bent into an L and pinned down so she cannot dig under it. Firewood stacked loose, stack it tight. You want 30 feet of clean, short, open ground between any cover and your vegetables. To you, it looks tidy. To her, it looks like a shooting gallery with a hawk circling over it. My mother-in-law did this one thing at my place, just the brush pile and the shed gap, and the damage dropped by more than half before I had spent a single dollar. Step 3, and here's the $4 hack from the title. I call it the soap fence. At the store, buy a 3-pack of the strongest smelling bath soap on the shelf, the spring scented kind, about $4. At home, take a cheese grater. The one you use for carrots is fine, and grate half a bar into a pile of shavings. Put the shavings into an old cotton sock or a mesh bag like the ones onions come in, tie it off, and tie it to a wooden stake. Set a stake every 10 feet around the garden with the sock hanging about 8 to 12 inches off the ground. That height matters. That is her nose height. She smells the world at ankle level, not at yours. Why soap? Because that heavy perfume and tallow smell does not exist anywhere in her wild world except on one animal, and that animal is you. It reads as a person standing there in the dark. Rain washes it down the stake and refreshes it, which is a nice trick, and one grating lasts about a month before you top it up. 3 bars carries you through a whole season. But now, here is the part I want you to rewind, because this is the difference between the folks this works for and the folks who say they tried it and it did not. Remember the question my mother-in-law asked. Why would a smell scare her if nothing bad ever happens? Ever. The soap gets found out too if you let it sit there, being harmless all summer. So you do not let the smell stay the same. You rotate. 2 or 3 weeks of soap, then you take the socks down and switch to the spray I am about to teach you. Then a rag dipped in plain white vinegar tied to the stakes for a week. Then back to soap. She never gets to finish her sorting. Every time she is about to decide the smell is nothing, the smell changes, and she has to start being careful all over again. That rotation is the whole trick. It costs you 5 minutes every couple of weeks. Step 4, the Sunday spray. Here is what is in that $30 bottle, more or less, and here is how I make a gallon of it for pocket change. 2 tablespoons of cayenne pepper from the bulk store into a gallon of warm water with a few drops of plain dish soap so it sticks to the leaves instead of rolling off. Let it sit overnight, strain it through a cloth so it does not clog, and put it in a pump sprayer, the pump-up kind you carry, about $15 for a small one, and it will last you 20 years. Sunday afternoon, after church and dinner, I walk the garden and spray the leaves of everything she loves. Beans, lettuce, peas, the bark of the young fruit trees. Here is why it works, and it is a wonder of creation if you ask me. The heat in a pepper, capsaicin is the word for it, burns the mouth of every mammal, but a bird cannot taste it at all. That is why birds spread pepper seeds and mammals leave them alone. So your songbirds go on about their business, and the rabbit gets one bite that lights her mouth up, and unlike a smell, that is a lesson with a consequence attached. Spray again after a good rain, and give anything you are picking that week a plain water rinse first, though it is only pepper and washes right off, safe as supper. Nothing in this whole system, not the soap, not the pepper, not the vinegar, will hurt a child, a dog, a cat, a chicken, or a honeybee. That is not an accident. That is the point. And step 5, the one that ends the conversation for good, the fence that works while you sleep. Everything so far costs almost nothing and buys you weeks at a time. If you want to be done, truly done, you spend about $50 once. A roll of chicken wire, 36 inches tall, with 1-inch mesh, because a young rabbit in June can pass through 2-inch mesh like it is not there. Stakes every 6 or 8 feet. And now the trick that makes it actually work, because a rabbit does not beat a fence by jumping it, she beats it by digging under. You do not set the wire straight into the ground. You bend the bottom 6 inches outward, away from the garden, into an L shape lying flat on the grass, and you pin it down with wire staples and let the grass grow up through it. When she comes to the fence at night, she walks to the base and starts to dig, and she hits wire under her feet. She does not think to back up 2 feet and start there. No rabbit does. She digs, hits wire, moves down the line, digs, hits wire, and gives up. $50. One Saturday afternoon with a helper, and that fence will stand for 10 years. The soap and the pepper buy you weeks. The wire buys you the rest of your life. Now let me pull back and tell you why I care enough to talk to a camera about rabbits, because it is about more than lettuce. Every summer, I hear about somebody in town who did it the other way. Mothballs scattered around a garden because somebody on the internet said so. Friend, do not do that. Mothballs are a poison. They are made to be used in a sealed box, and scattered on the ground, they poison the soil, and they look like candy to a toddler and smell interesting to a dog, and using them that way is against the label, which makes it against the law. And worse than that, it is dangerous to the very children and pets that title up their promise to keep safe. And the poison baits are worse still, because the rabbit that eats poison gets slow, and the slow rabbit is the one the hawk takes, and the fox, and the neighbor's barn owl. And now you have poisoned the exact animals that were solving your problem for free. A single fox family will take hundreds of rabbits in a year. The hawk on your fence post is worth more than every bottle in the store. When you kill the helpers to get at the pest, you lose both, and you get to buy the problem again next spring. My mother-in-law is gone now, and I think of her every June when the beans come up. She used to say the thing I will leave you with, the sentence that this whole video is really about. You do not fight a rabbit, you take away her reasons, her cover, her confidence, her easy path. Take away the reasons, and she moves on to somebody else's yard. No poison, no cruelty, no monthly bottle, and your garden feeds your children instead of hers. In money, if you are counting, a half-acre garden puts $600 to $800 of food on our table every year. And this whole system, soap, pepper, wire, and all, costs about $60 the first season and under $10 every season after. So here's what I want you to do tonight, not this weekend, tonight. Go out at dusk with your coffee, stand still at the corner of the house for 20 minutes, and find her front door. That is all. Just find it. Everything else follows from that one piece of knowing. Then tell me in the comments below what state you are in and what she has been eating at your place. Beans, tulips, bark. I read every one of these. And if you put up a soap fence, come back and tell me how it went. The folks in my community already know all of this. I am telling it for the folks who were never told. Next time, I am going to show you what my mother did every July to keep the deer out of the sweet corn, and all it took was a spool of plain white string and one thing from the smokehouse that you would never think to hang in a garden. It worked for 50 years before anybody sold a deer repellent, and it still works better. Until then, keep your rows straight, keep your eyes open at dusk, and remember that the old ways are mostly just paying attention, written down.